Hello, vegan coaches. This is Karen Ranzi, and today is Thursday, May 9th. I am very excited to have Dr. Will Tuttle with us today. And it's a very interesting topic, one that I wanted to go and attend at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. Dr. Tuttle was speaking there, I was speaking there, and unfortunately, we had many of our talks at the same time.
Right.
So I wasn't able to get to hear this talk, and so I asked him if he could come and do this talk for you. And so we have the opportunity to hear it. And I want to just right now read his bio. Just going to give a little bit of information and then I'll let him give you more. So the talk today that Dr. Tuttle is going to give, and this is Will Tuttle, PhD, and the title is The Keys to Developing Your Intuition. Dr. Tuttle is an acclaimed pianist, composer, and author, and he unites both Eastern and Western meditation traditions and is a Dharma master in the Zen tradition. Uplifting, philosophical, musical, and both challenging and reassuring, this is a workshop that can change lives as we invite spirit to work its wonders on the ultimate frontier, the human heart. And so some of the insights that Dr. Tuttle is going to include is discovering your unique ways of accessing your intuitive wisdom, effective inner and outer practices for developing joy and spiritual awareness, techniques using meditation, imagery, music, and art that inspire intuitive insights, how to respond to the global intuitive imperative and meditate more effectively, and ancient secrets for awakening the love, compassion, joy, and peace within. And I just want to say that that Dr. Tuttle's work, the World Peace Diet, had a profound influence on me and my life. And I pretty much tell everybody I know about the World Peace Diet. And Dr. Tuttle has a new book out, which is called Food for Freedom. And I hope he'll also talk about that book today, which has just come out. He did a wonderful launch about a week ago. And I'm very excited about this new book, which ties in not only food and veganism, but also what's happening in the world today and how we can have better lives. So thank you so much for coming, Dr. Tuttle, and I'm looking forward to your talk.
Great. All right. Thanks so much, Karen. Madeline and I always love to spend time with you and to share ideas together with you because we're really on the same page about virtually everything, which is unusual in today's world
Yes,
to
for
find so much
sure.
agreement about the critical things. But essentially, the workshop that you just talked about, it's called Opening the Intuitive Gate, the Keys to Developing Your Intuition, is a workshop that we do a lot. Madeline and I lived in an RV for 17 years and traveled all over North America. Every Sunday we were at one of the Unity or Unitarian churches or something like that, and then we would always give this workshop. Because my PhD at Berkeley focused on educating intuition in adults, so I really have been interested in this subject for decades, and I not only have done a lot of inner work through meditation and music and so forth to connect with intuition, which I call the inner guidance system that we all have. It's our best friend. The friend, there's no more valuable friend that we have, I think, than an inner knowing that we can learn to connect with and rely on to lead our unique life, to help guide us to live our life for the short time we're on this earth. So this is, basically what we've done this workshop so many times, traveling around and presenting this. And usually when we do it live, like we did at the Fruit Festival you talked about, there's a piano there and we put the paintings up and people walk around and we do it, it's kind of a whole kind of a thing. So what I'd like to do for our time here on Zoom is talk about the main ideas and maybe have a guided meditation together, and then answer your questions too, so we can have kind of an interactive kind of a thing. This book here, called Your Inner Islands, The Keys to Intuitive Living, is a small book that I actually recommend. This. It's on Amazon. It's easy to get, or from our website. It goes a lot more deeply into the whole subject that we're going to be talking about today. But the basic idea is that intuition is not some exotic thing that only a few lucky people have and everybody else has to kind of stumble our way through life. This is really our own true nature. It's our own inner genius, our inner capacity to unfold the unique life that each one of us is here to unfold. And the basic idea is when we are connected with our intuition, then we're naturally living our life. We're not living the life that someone else thinks we should be living in a certain way. And we're surrounded by voices and influences and narratives that are constantly pushing us away from this. We're really in a hostile environment in many ways. We're being pushed to eat foods that are not in our best interest, to do jobs, to buy products, to all these things to help somebody else fulfill their dreams, but not fulfill our dreams. So for us to fulfill our own dreams, we really are called to cultivate our intuition, but we're not taught anything about this as kids in school. And I would say, in fact, in our entire society, really, it's repressed. It's repressed by the official forces because when you have people that are connected with their intuition, you have people that are very difficult to control or to dominate or to manipulate. And so intuition is really, in many ways, the great enemy of the totalitarian state or of corporatized media narrative that we have going on now. But it is the great friend of spirituality and creativity. Those are what I call the three sisters: are intuition, creativity, and spirituality. And some people will sort of identify as being creative and don't think of themselves as being particularly spiritual or intuitive. Some people might identify more with being spiritual or maybe more with being intuitive, but there are really three doorways into the same room. They all lead to the same place. Creativity, spirituality, and intuition lead us into healing. Healing on a deep level, not just physical healing. Physical healing is part of it, but at a deeper level to connect more authentically with our true nature. And this, the great gift that this gives basically is joy. And I think that's something that is important to just underline at the very beginning here, that when we connect with our intuition in this internal guidance system, it doesn't mean that our life will suddenly become easy and everything will just go just the way we want and we won't have any challenges or problems. It doesn't mean that. We'll still have our challenges and problems and we'll have our opportunities, but what we will have is authenticity. We'll be living our life instead of somebody else's life, and that naturally evokes within us a feeling of joy. And this basic joy does not need something from the outer world. I think that's a really important point. We're trained from the time we're little kids that somehow to be happy and have joy, we got to get something. We need to be approved of or have the outer world arranged in a certain way, and then we can relax and be happy. And the basic truth I think that we can all understand and connect with directly is that our true nature is joy. We don't need anything in the outer world at all to experience a feeling of joy and gratitude. And quieting the mind is one of the most important parts of this, because when we quiet our mind, we can allow ourselves to sense our true nature, which is beyond thinking. The thinking mind is continually keeping us in the past and in the future and trying to change ourselves or change other people or change situations or plan things and so forth. And that's buzzing and swirling and spinning nonstop. And it keeps the basic sense of joy in our intuitive guidance system suppressed. So a regular practice of meditation is helpful. I'll get into that later, but the basic idea is that joy is always present as a bubbling spring at the core of our being. And that joy comes naturally when we're connected with our intuition, and we feel that, right? And it just manifests as opportunities for various things in the outer world as well. So I know you all have your own story. That's what got you here to this Zoom call, and I'm sure it's a beautiful story that brought you where you are now, and you're interested and open to these ideas and curious, and that's really precious. My own story, just very briefly, I think it's kind of a little bit instructive. I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts, back in the 1950s. And so I remember learning to swim in Walden Pond. I was born in Emerson Hospital, went to Thoreau School and Alcott School. So the transcendentalists were kind of part of my upbringing. But it wasn't until I got away to college in Maine in the early 1970s that I really started reading these writings. And they were really about the spiritual life, transcendentalism, and Emerson and Thoreau were really focusing on quieting the mind and connecting with a lot of the ancient wisdom from Asia. And so when I read that in college, I started getting interested, and I started meditating for the first time and doing yoga, all these things way back in the early 70s. And I remember reading a book called Cosmic Consciousness, written in the 1890s by a Canadian psychologist. And he said basically that there's two kinds of consciousness. There's what he calls self-consciousness, which is what most people have when we go around in our life and we care about ourselves. But he said a few rare individuals had attained what he called cosmic consciousness. And it's this expanded consciousness. People like Jesus and the Buddha and other great sages and mystics and saints and so forth, both men and women, had attained this higher level of consciousness. And he said it is the destiny of all human beings to attain cosmic consciousness. That's basically our responsibility. It's our destiny. That's why we're here, is to unfold a higher consciousness, not just to accumulate things, which really don't make us happy. I heard this great line recently by George Carlin, the comedian. He said, trying to find happiness by accumulating things and possessions is like trying to assuage your hunger by taping sandwiches all over your body. That was great. Not going to work. So in order to really, to eat spiritual food, we need to practice. So I remember, talking about this with my parents, cosmic consciousness, we have to attain cosmic consciousness, and my parents were somewhat aware of these things. My father taught me to play the piano. He was a musician and a writer. My mother was an artist. But to my great delight, my younger brother, Ed, when I talked about this with him, he said, yes, let's do it. Let's attain cosmic consciousness. So we thought for a while, what do we do? And I had just graduated from Colby College in Maine, and we decided we would walk from where we lived in Concord, Massachusetts, all the way to California. And we would just meditate and attain cosmic consciousness. And we would do it without any money, right? We're just going to walk all the way with no money. And so we tried, we did it. And we walked, and we got about as far as Buffalo after about a couple of weeks. And it was really an adventure, somehow finding food and somehow sleeping somewhere. And then when we got to Buffalo, it was October, it was freezing. And so we decided to abandon the California thing and just head south. So we walked south all the way through upstate New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, all the way to Alabama. And again, with no money, just walking, meditating. But the point I want to make is we really learned a lot about trusting our inner guidance, because we were out there with nothing. And I also experienced something that I hadn't experienced, I think, since I was maybe a little one-year-old baby, which was this spontaneous sense of joy. I just started, we'd be walking somewhere on some little backcountry road in West Virginia or something with no reason to be happy. We had no money. We had no security. Nobody thought we were doing the right thing. But I would feel this tremendous joy because I was living my life. And I think that's the key thing that I remember, and that is such an important point, is that when we're living our life, we'll have this basic sense of joy underlying everything. And but to do that really requires us connecting with our inner guidance system. And that is something each one of us is responsible for. Nobody else can do that for anybody else. That's our responsibility. And when we do that, essentially, we begin to connect with this, not only the joy, but we begin to live a mission. We have a mission, a purpose, and we know why we're here for this incarnation. So the basic thing is intuition is essentially a feminine capacity. In the Chinese tradition, we have yin and yang. Yin is the capacity to be receptive. Yang is the capacity to be active. And the thing that we have to understand is that the capacity to be active, creative, which is really important, is only possible to the degree that we can be receptive. So the key to creativity and effective action, yang power in the world, is to develop a strong and powerful yin, capacity to be receptive. But we're not taught any of this. We're not taught how to be receptive. We're taught to be doing things all the time. But we're just doing, and it's kind of shallow because we haven't developed the deep inner capacity to be receptive to the inner guidance. And so the more we develop that inner capacity of receptivity, the more we can be effective in the outer world. I think a good example is Mahatma Gandhi, when he was confronted by the British in the critical time when the Indian people were trying to get freedom from England, and the British imposed a salt tax, a tax on salt, and everybody came running to Gandhi, and they said, Mahatmaji, what do we do? The British have now imposed a tax on salt. How do we respond to that? And his response was, I'm going to go into my little hut and meditate about it. So leave me alone. And so after a day, they banged on the door and said, now what do? We got to do something. And he said, I don't know yet. Give me more time. And so this went on for a few days. And he just stayed in this little hut, meditating until he really got it. And then he came out and he said, all right, what we're going to do is we're all going to come together, and we're going to gather everyone who's willing, and we're going to march together all the way to the ocean, to the sea. And when we get there, we're going to make our own salt. We're going to show that we do not need their salt. And this was a very powerful yin. He really took time to connect. And that led to a really powerful yang, right? It's tremendous, thousands and thousands of people marching. And that was considered the great action that ended the British legitimacy. And so I think we can see this unfolding in our lives. The more we connect with our inner capacities of intuition, the more we cultivate the feminine capacity to be receptive. That's really the key to it. And then we get guidance, and then we can act on that. So what I'd like to do in the kind of short time we have is talk about the 7 keys to developing your intuition. Because I think, when we want to become good at something, like we want to become really good at playing the violin or really good at knitting or whatever it is, what do we have to do? Right? We have to practice. Right? The thing everybody knows, we have to practice. So with becoming good at tennis, if I want to become the greatest tennis player in the world, I'm not going to do that by just reading a lot of books on tennis and watching all the videos. I got to get the racket in my hand and hit the ball around, and that's how I become good at tennis, right? We learn by doing. That's what a human incarnation is all about. We're here not just to read books and think about things. We're here to actually roll our sleeves up and jump in and learn by doing. So I'd like to give right now 7 actual practices we can engage in our daily life that will help us to develop our intuition. Because that's the thing with intuition. It's like, well, I want to become more intuitive. And it's a skill that we all can develop. But we think, well, what do I do to become more intuitive? So these are 7 things. And I call them the 7 keys to developing intuition. And the first one, the English word for number 1 is meditation. And that essentially that we can take time. I would recommend taking time on a daily basis to engage in meditation. And So there's a few things I want to say about that. Number one is that there's two types of meditation. One is when we're actively engaged in something and we're in a pretty much one-pointed way of being. So if there are certain activities that you naturally are drawn to, that you really love and enjoy, maybe taking walks in nature, or maybe a craft or a musical or artistic ability or something, when you're doing that, you're probably getting into somewhat of a meditative state. You're just present, because what meditation is basically, it's nothing exotic or un-American or anything like that. It's just simply a mind that is present and relaxed and focused. And it's unusual to have that in our society for the most part. We're taught to have the opposite of that, to be always thinking of the past or the future and wanting to change other people or wishing we would have been able to have done something else. And, we're always kind of thinking and so forth. So as I was saying, if you're doing an activity where you're in a naturally meditative state, that's great. I would really recommend, finding those activities and engaging them during the day. But beyond that, I think it's also really helpful, the second type of meditation, which is actually just sitting quietly and working with the mind. And the mind is our great ally, our great friend. Our mind can also be our great enemy. And so we really are not, we're not taught how to use our mind in our society at all. And that's a big problem. It's kind of like, to me, it's like having this beautiful piano. Since I play the piano, right? So I'm so blessed. Madeline and I spent probably 4 or 5 months trying to find the best piano in the whole San Francisco Bay Area. And we found it, and it's in the living room right over there. And but I remember going through that process, traveling all over the entire Northern California, looking at all the piano stores and we looked at hundreds of pianos. And I wanted the great piano. But the point is, when you have this fantastic piano, like the one we finally have here, we call this piano Yuma. Yuma is a fantastic instrument. I mean, it has beautiful high notes, deep resonant low notes. It responds instantly to touch. I mean, it's incredible. It's the best piano. I travel all over the world playing pianos. I have the best one right here in my living room. But the point is that that's our mind. We're all given a mind that is an incredible instrument, but we're not taught how to play it. We're really not taught. I mean, we learn from our parents, right? And what are they doing? They're spilling drinks into the action. They're banging on the keys, whack, whack, right? They're making a racket. They're making a bunch of noise. That's really what we do in our society for the most part with our minds. We are unaware as a culture of the tremendous beauty of our mind and how our mind can create beauty and joy and happiness and freedom and abundance and all these beautiful things, because we're taught to eat junk food and argue and be afraid and criticize and blame, and so we get really good at that. Whatever you practice, whatever we practice, we become expert at. If we're taught to manipulate people, we become really good at manipulating people. And that's what we're taught. In we're taught to get something, right? We want to get a good grade, so we manipulate the teacher. We're just taught all these things. So the whole idea is that we need to practice something else. We need to practice the piano. I wanted to play the piano. My father played, and he said, well, you can play like me, but you got to practice. So that's the whole key at everything. What veganism is, it's a practice. And what spirituality is, it's a practice. What developing intuition, it's a practice. So to take time every day to practice with the instrument of our mind. And so to find a practice that you resonate with, I think it's a really good idea. Like becoming aware of the breathing, perhaps, and just watching the breath for 15 minutes, coming and going, and paying attention to that, getting to know that. Or to just listen internally, just let the mind be quiet and listen. Or to repeat perhaps a prayer or a mantra and just be with that. Anything we can do to help bring our mind into a place of one-pointed attention and where it's relaxed and focused is going to pay huge dividends in the rest of our life. But again, we are so pressured in our society to accomplish things and do so many things. Very often we think, well, I don't have the luxury to just sit there and not do something. I've got to be doing something, just to keep up with the bills and just to pay, and just to keep my business going. I don't have time, and the kids and this and my relationship and, we have 10,000 things. So we're under, but that's not an accident. I mean, there's a reason things are set up like that. The last thing they want, really, the plutocrats who control everything is people who are meditating and who are at peace and who are not afraid, who don't easily get pushed around. So it's up to us and our mind. Our mind is the only thing we bring with us when we leave this body. You're not going to bring the body. You're not going to bring the riches. You're not going to bring anything except your mind. So for us to get to know our mind, and the only way to do it is through observation, watching the thoughts, watching what's beyond the thought. And then with practice, we begin to realize that what we are is not just the thoughts and the feelings that are always coming and going. That what we are is the field of consciousness within which all of this is arising. We're far greater than just all those thoughts. We tend to identify with this body, which is not what we are. This body's going to go, but not us. And with the mind and with the story and the narrative, all these stories that we tell about ourselves, it always revolves around me, this me. So the whole idea is to that's a huge contraction, to relax that contraction, to be the space within which the me is doing its dance and running around and trying to do things. That we are the infinite eternal consciousness within which this is playing. And once we begin to relax and expand our consciousness, then we begin to know what's ours to do. Instead of being driven like a little actor, like being propelled like a puppet on strings by all what my father said I should do, my mother, and with all the people in my life, they're always pushing us some direction or another. We've internalized all these narratives. So the whole idea is to this is a critical part of developing intuition, is just learning to work with our mind in a way that we can watch it, just watch it moving and be open. And the main problem really that people have, I think, with meditation is that it gets to be something that's either boring or something they don't feel like they have time for. And so they think, well, I'm spending half an hour watching my breath or just listening or just feeling my oneness with the infinite love that is the source of my life, just resting in that awareness. But I have too much to do. So the main problem with meditation is people stop doing it. They think I tried it. My mind's too busy. It doesn't work for me. The whole idea is to just do it anyway. And if you want, and don't look for improvement. That's the other thing. People, I tried it for a year. I didn't get any better. And don't worry about it. If you want to look for improvement, look for the rest of your life when you're not meditating. You'll see your relationships and your career and everything else, it'll improve. Because the more you just take time to practice with this instrument, this beautiful, magnificent instrument of our mind, we'll realize that it has tremendous possibilities of understanding and love and creativity. And so that's number one. Number one is meditation. A regular meditation practice is a foundation. That's really one of the main foundations for developing intuition as a regular practice. Number two, second key is dreams. We all dream, right? At night when we're sleeping, we go to sleep and we have dreams. So again, we're raised in a society where we're taught pretty much to forget, don't even pay attention to your dreams, really. Most of us, when the alarm goes off and we get up and we get a cup of coffee and we go off and we do something. So the whole idea is to try to integrate the waking self and the dreaming self. And a good way to do that is to maybe have a dream journal or at least cultivate remembering the dreams and then thinking what the message might be in the dream or what the guidance could be. Because this has been well understood for thousands of years that certain dreams can really give us guidance, can open up a doorway of understanding that we wouldn't have, or can give us suggestions. So we have to, again, this is something we learn with practice, but we can practice remembering our dreams, being even conscious within our dreams, and also making the connection between things that happen in our dreams and what's going on in this other dream that we think is real, really happening. And the whole idea is, we can seed our dream. Maybe before we go to bed, we have an issue we really would like to get some clarity about. We can ask that, and then write down. Having a dream journal really helps if you just to remember things. So that's number 2, is dreams. A good avenue to intuitive insights and guidance. The third one is to cultivate a positive internal environment. That's a practice. Each one of us can practice cultivating and developing and building a positive, beautiful internal environment. And this is something that we can do. We can take responsibility for this. It's not something, we're not just at the mercy of negative thinking, right? I mean, we have to understand that, first of all, we've been bombarded with huge amounts of negativity from the time we're little kids, through the media, through the news, very often through parents and relatives and people. And we've probably been harmed as kids, abused in various ways. So we've internalized a lot of negativity. And that is really makes it harder for our intuition to really flower and prosper. So again, the good news is that we can cultivate and develop a positive internal environment. We can actively stand porter at the gate of our thoughts and not allow in thoughts of anger or fear or judgment or jealousy or misery. I mean, we can consciously wake up in the morning, make it a practice, for example, like as soon as my eyes open, just cultivate a sense of gratitude. Oh, wow, I got another day. The possibilities of learning and growing and contributing in this day, what they could be. And then practice when we look out of our eyes and we see a tree, to see the beauty of the tree and be grateful for the being of that tree, and say to the tree, thanks for shining your beautiful self right into our place here. Or birds or people, or and give thanks for the people around, and have a positive feeling about oneself. To see myself as a radiating center of joy and freedom and creativity. We are that. We are magnificent. We are harmed from the time we're little kids by a culture that makes money on people who don't feel good about themselves wanting to buy things so they do feel good about themselves. I mean, we have to realize we've been wounded and manipulated, dominated and exploited by a culture that treats us like livestock. And we shouldn't allow it. We need to really consciously make the effort to create this internal environment. That's where we live. We can be in any environment in the outside world, but where we live is the inner environment. And we can build a beautiful one. And it just means making an effort to do that and practicing that. So that's number 3. It's called affirmations and denials, affirming the positive truth that we are and denying these lies. And the thing that also I should say that number 3 does not work well if we're not doing number 1. You really need to, in other words, if I'm just saying nice things, but I'm not actually working with the mind itself in silence, it tends to be like a Band-Aid over a gushing wound. It's not, you really got to do number 1 also, I think, to make number 3 effective. Okay, number 4 is the practice of taking risks and trying out new things. Taking risks and trying new things. This is really a very important thing, because we go through our life and we tend, as the years go by very often, to accumulate habits and get into ruts. And all of these are really the enemy of creativity and intuition and spirituality. The idea is to try to have a freshness, try to see things in a new way, try doing things in a different way, with whatever, with our clothes, the way we drive, what we say, how we look. Just kind of try to adopt fresh perspectives on things. Traveling can be really helpful, going to other cultures where people have different assumptions about the nature of reality, get alternative perspectives. Also practicing looking through the eyes of other beings. Like, how would it look like to someone of a different age or a different race or a different species, or all these different things, animals. Looking from their point of view is really helpful. The more we can cultivate this capacity to get outside of our own perspective and look from the perspective of others, not only does it open our heart to more compassion, but it also opens our mind to an intuitive awareness of the multiplicity of dimensions of consciousness, because every being has their world that they're living in, they're inhabiting. And we become, as we get older, we become more and more of a rich gift, I guess is the word, or resource for our society. In traditional societies, the elders were revered and honored because they had all this experience and they had a broad perspective, and they could really help guide the community because of that broad perspective. Because when they were younger, they were working on their intuition and their spirituality. And so that's important for us, as if we want to be a rich resource when we get to become elders, then it's important for us to develop this capacity to look from other perspectives. And then we have, instead of just being narrow-minded old people, with nothing much to give, we can be really a great resource for the younger, for the whole society. But it really requires us to take risks, try new things, step outside of the comfort zone. Basically, the comfort zone is where we're comfortable, and not a lot of growth happens there. If we step outside of that and we try something that's a little bit on the edge, that's great. That's how we grow. And so that's an important part of developing our intuition. We can practice that in our daily life. So that's number 4. Number 5 is, the word for number 5 is nature. And basically just to practice getting into nature, if we can, every day in a way that's relevant for us, whatever that is. If it's maybe you live by the ocean, you can take a swim or take a run on the beach. If you have a garden, you can go out and do some gardening. But just to connect with the sun and the moon and the sky and the wind and the rain and the trees and the flowers and the birds and the animals, and this natural world, it naturally will help remind us of our true nature, and it will naturally, our intuition will grow. I mean, the more we're in nature, the more we are connected to our true, we are nature, and we live in a society that just absolutely disconnects us from nature. We end up more and more finding ourselves in these artificial boxes, artificial light, artificial temperature, artificial sound, artificial every colors, everything. And then we're looking into computer screens and all of this, and it gets more and more a human world disconnected from nature and from our true nature, which is intuitive wisdom. So I think we have to be, again, all of this, the main word in all of this is proactive. We need to be proactive. Don't expect anybody to come along and take you out into nature. You got to go. You got to walk out there or drive to somewhere where you can get there. But the more we get into nature, and I think it's good really to take our shoes off and get barefoot on the earth, and let the sun really do its thing. The more we open up to nature, the more we can open up to our intuition. They really work together. And if you can do it every day, and then if you can maybe 1 week a year or something, just go camping, get out there for a while. It's a wonderful way to have insight and inspiration. I wrote a lot of the World Peace Diet in a tent out in the woods. Just going out into the woods to me has been a fantastic thing. So that's number 5. Number 6 is, the word for number 6 is creativity. And again, as I said earlier, creativity, intuition, and spirituality are what I call the 3 sisters. So again, what this one is basically is to every day try to do something that for you is creative. Do something creative. And it could be some kind of like an art, like maybe some kind of art of some kind, maybe knitting or painting or drawing. It could be music. It could be dancing, jumping around, yoga. It could be writing in a journal. It could be talking. Life in general is pretty improvisational, right? We don't know what we're going to do when we start talking to somebody, but really kind of work with that, being creative in different things, where we feel, because again, creativity is something that comes from somewhere. It comes from a mystery. It comes from beyond the conscious mind. When I'm sitting at the piano and music starts coming, a new melody or something, it's a gift, and it comes from beyond the programmed verbal mind. Like intuition. Intuitions are knowings that guide us. They come from beyond just the conditioned mind. And so the more we cultivate creativity, the more we're going to be connecting with our intuition. And then the seventh one, the final key I want to mention, the word for this one is compassion. And this is the one that I think, again, opens up many doorways for us, because, again, we're born and raised, like the World Peace Diet talks about this new book here, Food for Freedom. I talk about this too. In the World Peace Diet, I talk about the intuitive imperative, that since we're born into a culture where from the time we're little kids, we're eating the flesh and secretions of tortured animals, we learn early on to suppress our intuition, right? Our intuition is like, what the heck are we eating? We're eating misery and terror and fear and pain and despair and anxiety. Little kids, they know that. On some level, we know that. But we're surrounded by adults that say, "Oh, this is normal. This is what we eat. It's good. It's where you get your protein. It's where you get your calcium." So Sophia, the sacred feminine dimension, which is really the inspiration for intuition, the compassion and kindness and sense of oneness that we have with nature and with each other, is just suppressed. It's just totally, our intuition in this society is so suppressed because of animal agriculture. It's just, that's just how it is. Like if I said to somebody, gosh, I see you like bacon. Would you like me to tell you where your bacon comes from? The person invariably says, no, I don't want you to tell me where the bacon comes from, because then I won't be able to enjoy my bacon. So I don't want to hear about it. I just want to eat it. And so we're raised in a society where we don't want to know. We just disconnect. We'd rather not think about the cruelty and violence that cows and pigs and chickens and other animals go through. To get our most intimate connection with nature in our society is food. So right there, that most intimate connection, we're suppressing our intuition. We're just blocking it. We're just shutting it down. We put up a big iron door. And so we live in a culture where intuition is shut down. And that's why we're doing crazy things. Instead of with all this creative potential we have, we're building nuclear weapons and cutting down rainforests and polluting the ocean. I mean, it's because of animal agriculture, the mentality of suppressing compassion. So the more we live our lives as an expression of compassion, of kindness, of respect for other expressions of life, of caring. We care about them. And that is a direct expression of intuition. Intuition knows that that one life lives through all of us, right? We are each other in a very deep way. And so when we harm someone else, we're harming ourselves. As spiritual beings, we know that. But as consumers, as people who are born to be exploited, that knowing is blocked. And so we start exploiting each other, and animals, especially. Animals are easy to exploit because they can't retaliate. They just don't fight back. So this is the problem. We've all been wounded and had our intuition suppressed. So anything you can do now, number 7, to live a kind and compassionate life for animals, for ecosystems, for hungry people, for anyone whose interests are not being protected, that all goes to helping to develop our intuition. So those are the 7 keys. These are things we can actually practice every day concretely, right? We can practice meditation. We can take time. We can take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We can really take time to really work with our mind and watch our breathing, to ask, what am I? What is the source of this life? Listen to beyond just the outer world. That's a powerful thing. We can practice connecting with our dreams. We can practice cultivating a positive internal environment. We can practice looking from the point of view of others and taking risks and trying new things. We can practice connecting with nature regularly, authentically. We can practice creativity, and we can practice kindness and compassion in our relationships with each other and with animals and with ecosystems, so that we're doing the best we can, so that all of the ripples that radiate out into the infinite web of relations from us, because that's happening. It's unavoidable. When we take out our wallet and we pay for something, when we open our mouth and we say something, when we go to the store and we smile or not, whatever it is, we're constantly radiating out into the web of relations impulses. Are they blessing and helping others, or are they like not? So the more we really make our life be a radiating center of kindness and love for others and caring, the more, it not only does it make the outer world better, but it always boomerangs back. Everything boomerangs, everything. And we have to really be aware of that. So these are things we can actually practice. And I think when we do, we realize that intuition is inherent within us, this inner guidance system. And if we just keep listening, it'll guide us again. It's kind of like eating, like we think, oh, I ate once and for, we don't just eat once and for all. We actually have to do it again. Same thing with intuition. We get maybe an intuitive guidance. Okay, this is what I should do next for my career or from this relationship, whatever it is. But what we find is the next day we've got to fine tune it again. Every day, constantly, continually, we're fine tuning. So this is the practice. But the beautiful thing is that we learn by doing, and we learn also by seeing the results of our actions, right? We might think, well, I thought I was really trusting my intuition on that, but it didn't turn out to. And that happens all the time. And so the whole idea, okay, so that's why we have a human incarnation. So we can learn, it's very concrete. Things here are really like, physical. So it's a fantastic realm to dwell in for a few decades, to learn and to help each other, to teach each other and to learn from each other. And that's really, I think, why we're here. So I'm going to stop right here. It's, I think there's some of the main ideas. And in this book I mentioned earlier, it basically has a lot of these teachings, but in more of a story format, and so a lot of other stuff, because it's a whole book. But it takes you on a journey from this shore, which represents where I am right now in my life, to the other shore, which represents the fully developed intuitive potential. And on the way from this shore to the other shore, there are 6 islands. The first island you come to is the island of understanding. Then there's the island of energy, the island of meditation, the island of relationship, the island of imagination, and the island of compassion. And each of these islands has teachings about developing intuition. Each one has an exercise you can do, and there's music that goes with it, and art. There's actually full color paintings in the book too that go with some of the exercises. So I think if you want to go deeper into that little book, you can get for I think $15 or something on Amazon. But I'm also happy to answer any questions anybody may have about what I've been talking about here. Because I really do think the greatest gift we can give to the world is cultivating our intuition. Like, if everybody does that, then we're no longer at the mercy of these outer authorities telling us what to do. We're actually living a human life and being an inspiration to others without even trying to be an inspiration, because we're living our life. And I think that's a great gift to give. So yes, I see a hand up here. Feel free to unmute. And
Eddie, would you like to say something, or do you have a question?
Well, as always, I have more than one question, of course, and more than one statement. Thank you, Dr. Tuttle, for making a very comprehensive review of why we're here, basically, and what we're attempting to get back to, which is, I would assume, to be unity consciousness, because we do live in a very dualistic and polarized sort of world, which seems to be polarizing even more. My question doesn't really touch directly on what you've said, although you obviously gone into some detail about the colonization of the mind and the spirit, and obviously materialism of consumptive capitalism. But I wanted to ask you something about the level of sort of energetic medicine and energy, and we know that we're all vibration and energy. Is there any one particular strategy you would think of, other than the 7 that you've mentioned, regarding removing samskaras or energetic imprints from our generational ancestors, which I have been told, and I do believe are something that is passed down intergenerationally?
yeah, that's an interesting question. I think there's different levels of working with those kinds of things, the energetic imprints that are passed down. And there's ways of there's people that do rituals to try to heal these things, and I think if one feels like, if I felt a particular energetic impulse that came like through my ancestors that I had to deal with, I would try to work with that, try to find a ritual or something that would work with that. My own background and training is primarily in two things. One is Buddhist teachings and Zen Buddhism, and also Vajrayana Buddhism. And the other main teaching is in spiritual healing. And in spiritual healing, and also it's very similar actually with the Buddhist approach to healing. Like in the Vajrayana Buddhism, there's the medicine Buddha and other teachings. And sometimes you do complex visualizations, to kind of see the cleansing of these things happening. But like in the spiritual healing and in Zen Buddhism, it's more just through understanding in a meditative way that what I am, what we all are, is free of all of that. I mean, it's essentially cannot touch us. It's like what we are is the infinite sky. And there's all kinds of clouds. I mean, there's clouds that white clouds and dark clouds and intergenerational clouds and all kinds of clouds that come up. And we can try to make those clouds go away or something. But ultimately, as the sky, they cannot touch us. They really cannot touch us. So we can work on it on the dualistic level of trying to work with those energies and try to expel them or dissolve them, or have them go into into the earth and be dissolved or eaten up or something. There's all kinds of visualizations that I've learned on those things on that level. The other level is to just understand through more of a non-dual approach that it has no impact. There's nowhere for it to grab. We're the sky. We're infinite eternal consciousness, and we're free of it. We're free. It's a non-dual approach, and I think part of it has to do with the individual tendencies. If we tend to gravitate more toward a more dualistic approach or more of a non-dual approach, I think they both have a place, and I can't say much more than that, really. I think it's a kind of an exploration to do. Each one of us can do that. For my tendency has been to go toward more of a non-dual approach. I mean, I immerse myself quite a bit, especially in the Tibetan Buddhist. It's quite a lot of working with these energies of ignorance and so forth, and I just felt drawn more to just meditation on the source of all of this and connecting with that. But there's millions of people that are drawn to the other, so I think they're both valid. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful.
Well, the reason I'm asking is it's not specifically for me in the sense of, I have done a number of Vipassana retreats in Thailand, and I've worked with shamans in South America. So I'm very much drawn to the practices of indigenous cultures anyway. But I'm saying this, and Karen knows why. Within my own family, there has been suicide, and there is dysfunctionality, and there's all these things. So I'm just sort of working out, is there anything that I can do, or do I just accept that is their personal journey, their karmic journey that they have to work through? Because it can be quite distressing to see the second child also being on a trajectory which could lead to the same outcome.
Yeah. Well, I think again the response to that really, I think, is that there's no rule of thumb, right? There's no like this do it this way, do it that way. Every situation is utterly unique. And it's our intuition that reveals what seems to be calling forth. The situation is calling forth, right? I mean, it's like if if you see a situation where the second child seems to be going this, you feel like you have a possibility to help prevent this, or I'm not sure what it is, but it's like to get quiet and connect with what is the response in the situation. If it's something I can do now, or if I'm working with something that happened already in the past and it may be still going on, it's I think it's really our intuition that gives us the guidance on these things. And in a way, there's no right or wrong ultimately, because we just do the best we can. We have certain guidelines, I think, that can help us, but it's important to understand as much as possible the non-dual perspective. I think that's really the important thing. Like when I was a Zen monk in Korea, we would get together when someone died on the 49th day, after they die, because that's when they're going to be going into the next incarnation. So we would all meditate, we would all do all these rituals, all kinds of rituals, and repeat the whole liturgy and send this person into an auspicious next birth. So that was at that level. But we would also, the whole idea was, when you do this, you have to know that on the bigger level, they're already liberated. They are liberated. Whatever you do, it's good that you're doing it, but they're liberated already. And because if you don't understand that, then it's kind of like I have this tile. There's an old saying in the Zen tradition. There's a guy said, the Zen master said to the student, "Why are you meditating?" And the student said, "Well, because I want to purify my mind." "Why do you want to purify your mind?" "Because I want to become enlightened." So then the Zen master picked up a tile and he started rubbing it with a rock, and trying to make it. And the student said, "Well, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm polishing the tile." "Why are you doing that?" "I want to make it into a mirror." You can't do that. But the student then woke up. He realized that the mind is already enlightened, right? I mean, we're trying to get enlightened. So we can do things, to try to help. And it's not to say it's not good. It was good for him to be meditating, but the teacher was trying to help him get to the point where, after he did all this work, to realize the bigger picture. And that's where it goes beyond words, right? I mean, it isn't a right or wrong. It's just you have to understand the true nature of the beings involved and see the best in them, see the truth in them. These, if we work on it at the level of the dirt and the problem, kind of reinforce that. See the utter perfection of these beings. And that way we call out the best in them. We call forth the best in them, which is their true nature. Hopefully. I have another. I also promised Madeline I wouldn't go too much more than an hour. Evelyn, thank you so much. Great questions, really. Very, very profound. Very, very good questions.
And can you take one more question?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Evelyn, you have a...
It's me. Well, thank you so much for that incredible talk. It did make so much sense, but also it's so easy for everyone to get lost in society, and I was not really. I mean, I'm in this situation where I'm like really surrounded by very strict-minded people, like more like fundamental Christians, that there's no room for any other exploration of the world or yourself. So it really was like dragging me down into like unconsciousness, and I forgot about all my dreams and intuition. And what really helped me, though, to get back to it was also very heavy physical exercise, because that kind of calmed my mind. And that is also the yoga practice, right? There's meditation and yoga, the physical exercise. So I think maybe there would be another point. Even like you can be so lost that meditation might not even work because you don't really know how to do it, or but the exercise just makes you completely shut down your mind, because you're Like there's no thinking anymore. There's only thinking like, this is so hard, and I couldn't believe that I made it through.
Yeah, that's a good point, I think. Physical exercise can be a fantastic liberating force. That's really true.
Yeah,
And
I mean, we live through our bodies for a
right,
reason.
right,
We
right.
experience everything through our flesh.
Hmm. Yeah, the mind and the body are absolutely one. You know, they're not separate. And I think when you know, we live in a society that really we're not moving enough. We're not. I mean, it creates craziness.
Mm.
It's really good. It's really, you're right. I mean, yeah, running, running, swimming, moving, really exercising the body strongly can be incredibly liberating. It can really put an end to depression and a lot of really, you know, psychological problems that people are having. Just using the body as it's meant to be used in a powerful way can be a fantastic thing, and that can be a meditation too. Really, like I was saying that
Yeah, that's true.
you know earlier, that you know the meditation is not only sitting but also physical. And yeah, thanks for that's a good point. Yeah, that's great. All right, so thank you everyone for your kind attention, and those who maybe watch this later on the video.
Yes, the
I
replay
really
will be
appreciate.
sent out, so people who couldn't make it, and there are different time zones, so
Right,
not everybody could make it at this time. So the replay will be sent. And this was just wonderful. You know, a lot of times we talk about the more physical aspects of health. And
right.
I really wanted to bring you in because you are so powerful with the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and how they're all tied together to the physical.
Exactly.
I love
Yeah.
these 7 pointers here for intuition. They were really wonderful.
Great. Well, I'm grateful for the opportunity, and just like to thank all of you for your kind attention. And we can go forth and multiply this whole message and see if we can manifest our intuition. You know, maybe we'll just close with take a moment and just give thanks for this precious opportunity that we've had to be together here in consciousness and awareness. Just dedicate all of the teachings and all of our efforts and activities to the highest unfoldment of wisdom and joy and freedom and abundance, creativity and awareness, harmony in our world for the benefit of all beings of the past, present, and future. And give thanks knowing that each and every one of us, as we go forth into our lives now, every day is connecting more authentically and fully with our inner guidance system that leads us to unfold the highest potential we have for this lifetime, for the benefit not only of ourselves and our loved ones, but for the benefit of all living beings. And so it is. Thank you. Bless you all. Thanks again. And we just look forward to the next time. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. And Dr. Tuttle, can you tell us where people can find you?
Yeah, we have our main website is just either Will Tuttle, WILLTUTTLE.com, or worldpeacediet.com. Those are the 2 main ones. We also have Food for Freedom now, .net. That's our new book, and I highly recommend it if you want to see the big picture of food, animals, and our society right now, and the freedom, health freedom, and all these things, how we can liberate ourselves by liberating animals. So that's I'm really excited about the launch of this new book, because this message has really not been getting out there like I think it really needs to, but it's very much connected with the intuition as well. So yeah.
Wonderful.
And we have Madeline's art. My wife is a wonderful artist, so her art and our music. A lot of CDs of music, and we now have a new thumb drive. We have all the CDs on a little thumb drive, the new technology. Or you can download it from iTunes and so forth. And we have audiobook. We have an audiobook coming of this. We have audiobooks if you don't like to read, you'd rather just listen, you can do that. So we look forward to staying in touch, and maybe we'll get to New Jersey one of these days.
I would love that. Or Colorado, because I'm half time in Colorado.
Or Colorado, right.
A little bit closer to California.
Right. Yeah. Good. All
Yeah.
right. Well, much love to you all. Thanks again for
Yes. And
joining
I'd
us.
also like to ask my
Yeah.
students to stay for a few more
Okay.
minutes.
Good.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tuttle. We so
See you
much
later then.
appreciate you coming here and talking to
Yeah.
us.
Perfect. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Awesome. So this is the first time I brought Dr. Tuttle in here, even though I have brought him into other events. I have a women's health club where I've brought Dr. Tuttle in a couple of times, and I just think that his message is very strong and clear. And I use a lot of this even in my coaching because it is so important for people to be aware that it's not only their physical health, it's all connected. So this mental and emotional and spiritual piece. And I also feel, Eddie, that your question about taking in, when we take in all of the traumas that our family has gone through, I was surprised by his response that we are just free and we have to look at that in that way.
It's interesting simply because, we do try and think about diet and lots of other things that, related to healing. And his work, it's not new in the sense that obviously a lot of this stuff he had in his first book or whichever book it was, World Peace Diet, which is, of course, if others haven't read it, is an amazing book. And I
Yeah.
think every child should be reading that because it does raise consciousness. But yes, it would obviously have been a much deeper conversation with him, looking at rituals and other things relating to karma and suffering and samskaras. And, it would have been a completely different conversation. But yeah, the whole aspect of healing is multifaceted. It's
Definitely.
not just about the food. It's not about relationships. It's all of those. I'm just wondering, do you know in what way his book, Food for Freedom, is different from the World Peace Diet? Because the World Peace Diet is absolutely cram-packed with huge amounts of information.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure this one is too, and I have not read it yet. I did skim it and read parts of it, and I did write an endorsement for it after reading different sections of the book. And he
Mhm.
sent it to me, so I am leaving on Tuesday for New Jersey, and apparently it's at my home, so I'll be reading it there. And I may also be I might also purchase the audio when he said it's going to be out soon, I believe. So I like to listen to books on tape. It's a lot easier for me, even though I love reading, I just don't have the time to go through the whole book. I'm sure it's a pretty sizable book. So I like the audio because I can even listen to it, let's say when I'm driving. So
Well, perhaps you can let us know what the big differences are, because like you, I have so many books and so many things to read and listen to that I
yeah,
don't really want to go and buy it right away.
yeah. But I think this is going to be a phenomenal read. So I am looking forward to it. And Tamara said that she got the time wrong. Well, we're happy that you joined us anyway, and you will get the replay. I think it will definitely be worth listening to. And I want all of you to meet Evelyn. Um,
Hi.
Evelyn just joined us for the first time today. So she's new here, and I would like everybody to introduce each other. And just, you can say your name, where you're from, and then kind of pass it on. You could say maybe one line about yourself and where you're going in terms of coaching, but just like one line, like very, very quick. Oh, and I see Jim came in also. Great. Jim, we're all introducing ourselves to Evelyn. Evelyn has just started the course, and I'm very excited to have her with us. Dr. Tuttle just finished his talk. I thought it was excellent, and I'll be sending out the replay. So I'm going to start with the top of my list here. Eddie, if you can just introduce yourself and where you're from and one line about yourself.
Yeah, one sentence. I'm in the UK. I completed the course several months ago, so I'm now actually fully certified. My main interests are in autism and mental health, and I'm writing a book at the moment on autism.
Okay, Eva.
Hi, I'm from Czech Republic, close to Prague, and I'm studying nutrition for a longer time. But here in this course, because I'm fighting with myself to put it into practice, really. And I really would love to do this job, to coach people to become more healthier. And yeah, that's it.
Great. Jim.
Yeah, I finished the course a few months ago, and I'm continuing it because it's for a lot of reasons I like it. But I live in New Hampshire. I'm in Maine now. We have a place here. I became a vegetarian way back at college, set in the 70s. And about 2000, I moved into more of a raw vegan orientation, sort of 80-20 raw vegan. And I'm moving now more into I guess a Doug Graham diet because I'm a high fruit like Karen is, and I'm 100% vegan. I've been vegan for a long time, but moving more towards being 100% raw. But I'm married, and my wife likes to cook sometimes. So, you ladies understand. But anyhow,
Okay,
Um,
thank you. I also just wanted to say that Jim has written many books on plant-based and raw food nutrition. He has a new book that's in the Raw Vegan Bundle. And if you don't have the bundle or know about the bundle, it is a really good way as you're going through this program or finishing this program to think about doing some kind of a book or an ebook. It could be recipes, it could be nonfiction. I've had many books. Well, so far it's been for 4 years, once a year. And I've had each year, a new book in the bundle. And it's a real motivator to write and to do an ebook. And you can even use a tool like Canva to get your ebook done on your own. So it is something that I recommend just to get out there and get visible. Let's see, Evelyn.
Sorry about my loud roosters. Yeah, so I'm 8-year raw vegan, 100%, and I love it. And yeah, and I also got into fitness a lot, so started bodybuilding. So I want to incorporate the raw vegan lifestyle with bodybuilding, and I think it's working really well. Yeah, that's all.
Where do you live?
Oh, I live in California. Yeah, I realized everyone is like all over the place, all over the world.
Yes.
But originally I come from Germany. I live in the US since 11 years. So right now I'm in Northern California. And
Wonderful.
there's 2 rooster pets. They're loud.
Yes, and it's
But I
great.
like to stay outside, but every time they hear me, they're like bothering me.
Right, right. Okay, and then Tamara.
Hi, I'm Tamara Windsor, and I live in the UK in London. And I nearly finished the course. I'm just roughing out the last 2 questions on section 4. So trying to write my bio, which is the hardest one.
Yes.
My bio would be I've been bedbound for years and years and years. Haven't done very much to write about, but I hope it can become a strength to give others hope. I'm sort of tipping the scales gradually back to health.
Wonderful.
I've
Awesome.
been vegan for about 10 years, I think. Yeah.
Vegan for 10 years.
Yeah, and high raw for about most of those years. And now, like, I go through stages of being completely raw and then a little bit of like some cooked food like rice or potatoes, but mostly raw at the moment. Trying.
Great, great, awesome. So I'm glad that you all got to introduce yourselves. Some of you I know are on Instagram, on Facebook. Also, this weekend, I'm going to go into, there is a Facebook group for this course. Since the live calls started a few years ago, the Facebook group isn't used as much. But I do want to say that there are some important videos in there that you may want to go in and see. Like there's one from the vegan publisher, Mitali, an excellent talk. There's one from Kathleen Gage on getting podcast interviews. I think those are really good interviews to watch. I think there's also one from Rosalind Graham on emotional eating, Dr. Doug Graham, Dr. Toomey Johnson. So there are some important videos in there that you might want to check out. So I'm going to make sure that I invite everybody. Sometimes in order for me to invite, we have to be friends. So if you are not on Facebook, I think there have been some who are not on Facebook. So then it's okay. You've gotten lots of replays of some of these people anyway, and I will be bringing some of them back. But for those of you who can come into Facebook, there are some really good resources in there. So let me know if you're not on Facebook. And that's pretty much it today. Next week, we will be meeting on Wednesday instead of Thursday. And it will probably be a little bit later because I rotate right now between 3 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Eastern. And then the following week, I will be bringing Lissa Maris in to talk about gut health. Her name is Raw Food Romance. And Lissa is going to go into detail with us about all that she learned about the gut microbiome. So I think that will be an important talk to be part of. But next week, I would really like it to just be us. So bring your questions. I'll also have a topic that I will tell you in my next email, and we will go from there. And I wish you all a wonderful weekend.
You know what, Karen, if you mentioned a couple of nice videos you have in Facebook. Did you ever think of making a list of some of the ones that you would recommend for us to see?
Yeah, let me
and
see
like
actually if I can go into I think some of them, or maybe even all of them, I will check. I will check which ones I have links to on YouTube. And so I could just send them to you in an email.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. That would be great.
Yes. Yeah, I'll do that. And that way you can have all of them. Kathleen Gage and Mitali from Vegan Publishers. Those are really good for visibility. The other ones are just learning coaching strategies and health, of course. So yeah, I'll take a look at that this weekend as well and send you whatever I can find.
Okay.
Okay.
Especially the
Sorry, Karen,
medical
what's the name of
doctors.
your website? So what is the name of the Facebook group, Karen, that you
The
set up?
Facebook group is, let me just give you the name. So I actually have a new group and it's kind of shadowing over the other one. I have a new group, but the information is not in that group. The new group is for people who want to learn about vegan and raw food health coaching. The original group, that's a private group only for students in here. I'm going to have to get you the exact name.
Or maybe you can send it to us when you find it. I mean,
I'm
it's no
going to
big
send
deal.
it to you all because I will send it to
Thanks.
everybody because it's not popping up in my search. It's a longer name also. So I will send that. I will send
Thanks.
it to you. Let me just write that down. Okay. So it's the Facebook name, the links to the videos. And also to invite you into my group if you are on Facebook. Okay. So
Yeah.
if I see you on Facebook, I'll invite you in. If
Yeah,
not, you'll
the
get,
links to the links to the medical doctors that you've had on would be great. You have about half a dozen of them that you've had on.
well, I have, yeah, those I send out usually after the call, like Dr. Tim Trader. I send you all those links. And what I recommend to everybody here is that when I'm sending you links to the events or even to the replays, that if there's certain topics that you want to keep, like have a Word document and have, marketing and visibility as one title and put the links under there, because I'm not going to be able to go back into all the replays. But what I can tell you to do is that as we go forward, and even if you can go back into past emails, if you haven't already done this, is take strategy calls and calls where, you had more health information, categorize those, and then also the marketing and visibility part. It will be easier for you when you're ready to go out there so that you'll have all those accessible. Also, those of you who are new and who are starting the modules, when you go through the Q&A, make sure to save it on a Word document or somewhere on your desktop so that when you finish the module and you go through and do all those answers to the questions and practical examples, that you have it available. Now, the back of the modules on the website, they save most of it, but I've had situations where not everything is saved and people have lost information if they don't save it. So make sure to save it.
That happened to
Yes,
me. I lost a whole module,
right.
and so I
Yeah,
learned to save it every time.
yeah. So that's what I tell everybody, save it, because you're also going to want your information. Some of you are doing, and I'm going to go over one particular example of a practical situation where she has like a whole program that she worked out. So you don't want to lose those kinds of things. So put it on a Word document. When you're finished with that Q&A, send it to me by email, either in the email or as an attachment, either way, so that I definitely receive it and can review it and get back to you. Because it's going to be a lot easier for me than going into the modules and looking for it there in the back end. The back end of the website does tell me the percentage of the course that you've completed so far, that it does, but with experience, I've seen it doesn't hold on to all of the information that somebody's writing in there. So you should write it, copy and paste it, and put it onto a Word document. Keep it in the course as well, because it will tally up the percentage of the course that you've completed. But also send it to me by email. Okay. Just wanted to tell you that that's very important. There's also one website, I believe it's in module 1, that was taken down during the COVID situation. Dr. Mercola's website. If you get to that and it's not available, just email me, let me know, and I'll send you a link to the information. And that is pretty much it. I'll look forward to seeing as many of you who can make it next week at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I will look forward to seeing you then, and have a wonderful weekend. It was great seeing you today.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Nice to have you with us, Eve.